Good evening and thank you. Welcome to another episode of Shields Ministries, where tonight's particular topic was a great one. It was about change. And we had two special guests. We had Nae Talley, Nae Talley from Las Vegas, and we had Mr. Curtis, I believe he was from Chicago, who were gracious enough to share their testimonies, their personal testimonies. And I think we got a lot out of them, especially, you're looking at two different testimonies. One was Mr. Curtis, who was talking about how he got over his addiction, his drug addiction, and how the Lord delivered him from drugs. And we talked about Mrs. Nae Talley and how she was struggling with body image anxiety in terms of plastic surgery and some of the complications that came from that, and also some of the things that happened later on in her life as a professional dancer and call girl. And we thank God that we have the opportunity for them to be transparent and open and honest about some of the experiences that they've had in their lives so we can learn and their testimony hopefully can help others. One of the things I talked about on the show is, being able to open up the forum to where, especially us in the church, we're not just so narrow-minded about things that are happening in the world. And I think the good thing about that is that these individuals are people that are going through certain things. They can help others. And I talked to Nae personally. I met her personally, and I've been kind of working with her. She is nothing. I say that like some of the images probably that are projected on social networking for her page and stuff like that. She is a totally different person, and I've learned a lot from her just talking with her about her testimony, her family, how she was raised, how she came up, her marriages, some of the decisions and choices that she's made in her life. And I plan on nothing happening is we're going to help her with a blog and also work on a particular show where she's able to talk directly to young ladies about some of the pitfalls of when you're dealing with self-esteem and self-worth issues, and also the addiction to money, fast money in particular, and some of the perils that comes with different men that, come in and out of your life. Now, Nate spoke about sugar daddies and how she's had a few of those, her addiction to money, a fast lifestyle, so forth and so on. But one of the things she didn't get a chance to discuss is the effect that this lifestyle has had on her children. And she's revealed to me that she felt like she was a selfish mom. She wasn't there for her children. One of her children, one of them is a transvestite. One is really struggling even to this day with her, as far as respect is concerned. She's been in and out of trouble. The eldest one I think she has multiple children with multiple men, if I'm not mistaken. And so it has cost her something. This is something that I think I was saying about to Mr. Curtis. I said, what in some of the choices that we make, what are the costs? And I think the price that Nae paid to live this luxurious lifestyle, this glorious or at least looks like luxurious lifestyle, is her kids suffer. She wasn't there for them, and they were cried out to her for help. But by her own admittance, she said she was selfish. She was concerned about her. And the root of that goes back to having that self-centered mentality where even in the Bible, we see a lot of times that, you can't be effective if you are so into only what you need and what you want, and you have responsibilities. And even if you don't have children, you have responsibilities to the gifts and talents that God has given you. So those, to too much is given, much is required. And I told Nae, I said, you're very powerful. I don't think you see it, but it's going to be revealed to her. And I think that's going to help her to transition even out of the lifestyle she's currently in. So that so money is no longer her God anymore. And she can allow the Lord to be Lord and Savior of her life. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to continue to work with her. But I was really also thinking about Curtis's testimony, where he talked about how drugs had, pretty much dominated his life, and he couldn't go back to some of the same places he went to, and how that addiction is a very sneaky addiction to where it's very patient. Like it waits for you to get complacent. It waits for you to think that you got it, And then as soon as you got it, next thing you know, you back in the same situation. So he talked about, he had to let go of a marriage because his wife was also a user. And that marriage became toxic because you have two users and two people that are sick in the relationship. So he had to let go of that. But today he's married. Today he's saved. He said he's been sober for 7 years with the grace of God. And he's trying to, again, and this is I forgot. This was the thing that they both had in common. Nae and Mr. Curtis had the same thing in common. The price that they paid for the lifestyle that they chose was they both had problem relationships with their children. He said his children really were disappointed in him, and he let them down because of his drug addiction. And Nae talked about how her children gave her problems all throughout their lives, even up into this present day, because of her lifestyle choices. So, what the enemy doesn't show us, there's always a price to pay. Sin, they don't, we look at it, we talk about sin and we put it as a big, in quotations, as a big blanket thing. But what the enemy won't tell you is that for the pleasure of it, there is a price to pay, And so both of these people had very tumultuous relationships with their children. And now they are now trying to just get back to the point where they could have, quote unquote, a healthy relationship with them, where their children can forgive them for not being there at some of the most crucial times in their life because they were out doing other things. And the enemy doesn't show you that side when you're out there getting high or you out there making money, dancing or stripping. He don't tell you about, I'm going to take your kids. So you can have that money, you can have that lifestyle, you can get high if you want to, but I'm working on your children behind the scenes. And that is a very heavy price to pay because we know that God works through generations. And the way he works through generations is he's concerned about not just us, but our seed. That's the reason why we know when he was talking to Abraham, he saw us, he saw David, he saw Jeremiah, Isaiah, he saw all of the generations. And so the enemy is very shrewd as well. He says, listen, maybe while I'm working on you and you out there in the world, I'm going to be working on your kids. So I'm going to have it's a 2-for-1. I get you and your children caught up. And the time that it takes to go out there and have fun, the years that it takes to get back into the good relationship and good graces with our children, it could take years beyond what we went out there and had fun and did and doing our thing. So in future reference, we have to know that sometimes the enemy is not concerned with the activity. He's concerned with the residual effects and the consequences that he doesn't tell us. And the Lord, by retrospect, the Lord is saying, well, I already know what's behind that door. That's why I'm telling you not to go over there. I know you're going to have to suffer, and I know your children will have to suffer because of the decisions that you make. So when you hear people say that I can do something and it's just only going to affect me, that's a trick of the enemy. Everything we do has an effect on people, anybody connected to us. So that means children, husband, wives, extended family. And then on top of that, you got your church family. You got the people that are depending on you to actually utilize the gifts that God gave you. So the longer we stay out there in sin, the further and further away we get from God actually able to use our lives to benefit somebody else. And so this is the message that I'm actually extending to Nae now, is to show her the power of being a blessing to somebody else, to take the focus off of her, the self-centered person that we are, and put it on someone else so she can get even more gratification from blessing somebody else's life versus always thinking about herself. And then that's when the enemy will start to disconnect that umbilical cord that he has over her, that is about, superficiality, about cars and clothes and stuff like that. I thank God because she's going to get there. And I pray, I kind of prayed with her a little bit tonight. She's going to get there. And I thank God for Curtis. I've never met Curtis, but I really enjoyed his testimony, because when you sit in NA and AA meetings, you get to hear how people hit their rock bottom. And sometimes it's different for some people. Some people have to go to prison. Some people have to, wake up homeless or sleeping in their car, or at gunpoint. But Curtis had a very interesting story. I thought that was wonderful. He said, he was in a situation where his life was on the line. He had stole some drugs from a drug dealer who was connected to his wife, I think it was his wife's son, and they were looking for him. And he prayed to God. He said, Lord, if you get me out of this one, because he knew them guys wasn't playing. They was coming. They weren't coming to pray for him. They was coming to really take him out. So he said, Lord, if you get me out of this one, I'm done. And so that was his testimony. Everybody has a testimony or some point where they come to the end of themselves, like the prodigal son did. So we thank God for this particular session. Again, this is Shields Ministries. I think I missed last week. You guys forgive me. I didn't do an episode last week, but I look forward to doing these episodes. Every week, the topics get better, and they get more, interesting in terms of something that you can sink your teeth into. We can all learn from. And I just ask, being that, some of us have been saved all our lives, that we just keep an open mind for people and a heart for people who are not maybe where we think we are not, there and are working to get to that point. So that way we can still have enough empathy and sympathy to help those who are still on the way. That's all I say. So we don't want to be like the Sadducees and the Pharisees, where we just get, so religious and so, into ourselves that, and get so churchy that we can't help folks that are struggling. Because it was a point in time where we were right there too, and we still dealing with things. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, allowing me to speak on behalf of Shields Ministries, and you pray my strength in the Lord. God bless.